Welcome to Outlaw Woodworking. Today's the day we finish up the forms and do some details. I got this last turnbuckle here that's right on top of a rock, so I'm going to drill into this rock and pound a piece of rebar in there. This is a Bosch roto hammer, which I've had for a long time and I highly recommend. It's a really good, it's lasted me a long time and it's been really durable. It's tough working in the rocks though. These turnbuckles, what I do is I pound a stake into the bottom of them and then I put a little screw to keep them from sliding up and down. Now right here I'm putting the finishing touches on all these forms. I'm going to put this upper whaler. All the horizontal boards are called whalers and the verticals are called strongbacks. And right here I'm going to go around the whole top of this uh, these forms and stiffen up this plywood so that the edge, I want to have a really nice edge detail when it's poured. I don't want it to be all crooked, and plywood, when especially when you get these thunderstorms that have been coming in, it tends to warp sometimes. So by putting this top piece in, it's making it a lot more rigid, and it's going to make a better product. I'm also going to overlap all these corners. Anywhere there's a splice in the whalers, I'm going to overlap a board, tie them together so that I don't get any movement. And right here, I'm running down this line, installing the anchor bolts as I go also. On this particular garage, I'm putting the anchor bolts I'm putting them close to the corners and also every 32 inches. So every other bay, I'm putting a 5/8 galvanized anchor bolt. And these little blue things you see, these are Simpson 5/8 holders, and you can reuse them. You can pull them out and reuse them forever and ever. I mean, they'd last a long time. I've also got all the hardware on for the inspection, the straps, and I should be pretty good for my inspection today. I like to use these Simpson holders for my anchor bolts. A lot of people just like to stab them in there, but I prefer to do this because they end up a lot more accurate, and they're just it's a better. Right there you can see I'm putting on the last anchor bolt. For power right now here on the job site, I'm using a Honda generator, and here I'm putting up more upper whalers. It really starts to look good after I run this top whaler all the way around, and yeah, it really stiffens up that last section of plywood on the top. There's the Honda generator. That's been a really reliable generator. You can't really beat Hondas. I try to, anytime I'm ordering like my wood splitter or stuff like that, I try to order it with a Honda motor because they're really reliable. I'm not pouring concrete for another 5 days, so I'm actually gonna just keep working on this thing and really get the detail, get it down to where it's really nice. Any little gaps in the plywood, I'm going to run a bead of silicone to keep them from wicking out. Um, and yeah, just spend a little detail. Here's another view of the upper whaler. I am going to spray all this wood actually um, with Thompson's water seal. And I've done that quite a few times. The first time I did it, I was building a house down at the beach, and I had this big plywood floor, and I thought, man, it's hard to cover it up with, in between the walls and stuff with plastic. So I sprayed the whole floor with Thompson's water sealer before the storm came in, and I watched it and it just beaded right off, and it really saves your wood. So since this form's going to sit for about, I'd say, another 5 days before I pour, and we do get thunderstorms that come in unpredictable, so I'm going to spray this whole thing with Thompson's water seal. And hopefully that'll preserve this wood, because all this wood I need to reuse again when I start building the house behind this garage. It's really important to take your time and try to get everything as straight as possible. And I use strings and laser on the top of these forms and make sure that it's really square and really level. It takes a little time, especially if you're working by yourself, but there's a certain satisfaction of doing it yourself, even if it takes you a little longer. You kind of look back and go, whoa, I did all that myself. And actually, it's funny, one of my neighbors had come by and he was surprised that I did all that myself. And I believe it only took me about 1 week to complete these forms. About 7 days probably. The real bummer was the cost of lumber right now, and yeah, that was a big disappointment. But I didn't want to stop my project, so I just bit the bullet and bought the lumber. But yeah, that was a real bummer, and that's why I'm going to try to preserve this wood as best as I can because of the cost of it. What I do is I go down, and anywhere the plywood is not firmly on the 2x4, on the whaler on the top, I put an inside screw and get it screwed. So I want to have a really nice straight edge, and screwing them won't really affect pulling off the forms, because yeah, and it keeps, I just want it to be really nice and straight. There you can see all the different parts. Now right here, I'm putting a screw in the bottom brackets, and I have to go around the inside and outside of all these brackets. That right there is the last turnbuckle that I have to install. Same thing, I just pound a stake in, put a screw in the hole in the bottom, and then put a protective cap on the top. Those caps, believe it or not, those orange square caps are really important, because if you've done construction for a long time like I have, you've had injuries. Like I've hit my leg on rebar that was sticking out of the ground, and boy, that'll really tear up your leg. So I'm pretty big on trying to be as safe as possible, especially for myself. And I don't want to fall on one of those stakes. Right here I'm putting in, anywhere there's a splice in the 2x4 in the whalers, I go ahead and join them together. And at this point, these forms are really starting to look good. They're really getting stiff, and yeah, I'm starting to feel really comfortable about pouring. And of course, I'll spend the next few days really going over the whole thing and make sure I haven't missed anything. You don't want to have, when it's concrete day, you don't want to have a blowout. Anyway, here's some drone footage after I got most of this finalized. This is the front of the garage right there. You can see all the straps and the anchor bolts already ready. All the turnbuckles are on. I've put screws in all the braces. I've screwed, it has holes in the spreader cleats on the bottom, and I put screws in each one of those also. Here's a little shot going down the side. You can see all the anchor bolts and the epoxy coated rebar. Turnbuckles. Here's a shot going down the back side of the garage. The nice thing about the John A system is if you take care of all this lumber, it's completely reusable, and you could do quite a few projects with all this material. And that's my hope, because obviously it was expensive. Here's another shot running down the other side. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Later.
you.